Last week, as all of my real supporters should know, I made a video called 6 NBA stars that are in the worst current situation. But this time I want to take a look at those stars that are actually in the best current situation. And for this video, I'm focusing specifically on those players that were like in bad situations last year, but now they're in better situations for the point of their careers right now. So I'm not really going to be looking at players like a Giannis or a Steph or players where their situations didn't really change too much. But before I get into the video, as all my OGs know, I do this every single video. Just my disclaimer, if you are a returning subscriber, make sure you hit that like button. You know, every single video this dude is going to post a banger, so just make sure you hit the like button. That just shows faith and it shows me that y'all are enjoying these videos, so I love that. Hit the subscribe button. You're going to love the channel. Just do it for me. Have the faith. I promise you, at the end of the video, you're gonna be like, man, this dude pretty dope, so let me just, you know what I'm saying? So just do that for me, man. Now that we got that out of the way, first on this list is actually Russell Westbrook again. Yeah, I know, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. He was on this exact same opposite list last week, but that's what 6 days can do in the NBA. It's always something changing. So he's on this list. Last week, he was on the other side of this list simply because it looked like yet another star left him high and dry and left him back in square one. But now that I really look at it, I think he's in an even better place than before. Look, we've all been hearing about all these analysts on ESPN, Fox Sports 1. When they talk about this trade, you hear two common words: usage rate. Both of these players' usage rates are sky high, like they're beyond high. I mean, they feel like the last 5 years, they go back and forth between 1 and 2 because they just hold the ball. But at least Russell Westbrook, he'll be in a position finally where he's again the clear number 2. When you put Russell Westbrook as the number 1 option, you're going to have issues. I mean, as great as Paul George was last year, I know he averaged 28 points. He had these streaks where he was going off. He was in the MVP conversation. He still always felt like the number 2 simply because Russell Westbrook bled OKC. He was there from the start and it was always kind of his team. Now for Russell, he's in a new uniform with a guy that's been there for the last 7 seasons, so I think he'll be a little bit more receptive to that secondary role. Also, he's finally out of OKC. I know he loved that place. He did a lot for the community. That place grew to be like his second home, but everybody left. KD was gone, Paul George left, James Harden left, and it was like he was just stuck there. It's time for him to finally have a second part to his career. Everybody's career kind of like elevated when they left, so it's time for him to get a chance to see what he can really do. So I'm glad for Russell, he's finally gone. Now next on this list, Paul George. I feel like the breakup between Russ and PG was equally great for both sides. For PG's side of it, I always kind of felt like Paul George is naturally a number 2 option. Like, I think he has the talent of a number 1, but I think he has the mindset of a number 2. And there's nothing wrong with that, but he's always been more of a Pippen. Skip Bayless says a lot of stupid stuff to me, but one thing that he always said that made a lot of sense, he said Paul George can sometimes turn into George Paul, basically saying that when you need him most, he can kind of flip the switch and turn into a shell of himself, which has been 100% true. Now, why is this trade absolutely great for Paul George? Instead of having his number 1 option be Russell Westbrook, probably the worst number 1 option in the NBA, he now has maybe the best number 1 option in the NBA with Kawhi Leonard. Like I said, I always felt like Paul George was naturally best as that second option, where all the pressure really isn't reliant on him. Like that Scottie Pippen role, that's where he's best. But to be a Scottie Pippen role, you have to have a Michael Jordan. He can't be Scottie Pippen 30% of the time and have to be Michael 70% of the time. It just doesn't work. So I feel like now he can truly compete for a title and maximize his talent with the perfect team around him. So I'm happy for Paul George. Now next on this list, I put Kemba Walker. I simply put Kemba on this list because he was just in a disgusting situation for about 8 years. Michael Jordan never gave him adequate talent. They only made the playoffs twice in the Eastern Conference. And last year he was playing with players like Cody Zeller, Michael Kidd Gilchrist, Nicholas Batum. Like, he never really had the right talent around him. Now, at least he has multiple respectable players on his team. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Gordon Hayward, and he even has a great coach that elevates all of his point guards. As long as you buy into what he's selling, I don't think Kyrie, I don't think his ego really allowed him to actually buy into Brad Stevens, but if you do, he's going to make you better. And I think Kemba Walker, being in that previous disaster, he's going to be all in. So for a talent like Kemba Walker, at least we can see him in the playoffs again. I don't want to see him at the bottom of the conference every single year because he doesn't have talent. So I'm glad for Kemba. Now next, Kawhi Leonard. Last year, Kawhi won a championship, so you may be asking, why is he on this list? He wasn't in a bad situation. Well, I'll tell you why. Although he won, let's not act like it didn't take every ounce in his body to get that championship. Against Philly, this man had to average about 35 points, 10 boards on 53% shooting, and he had to hit the craziest shot maybe in playoff history just to get him to the Eastern Conference Finals. Then they saw Milwaukee, got down 0-2, and they had to fight tooth and nail to get to the NBA Finals. Then in the finals, and Toronto fans, I'm not trying to diminish y'all championship, but let's not act like all the fortune didn't fall y'all way. KD couldn't even start the series off. Klay Thompson, he got hurt like in game 2 or 3, a pivotal game in that series. Then KD tries to come back, I believe, in game 5, gets hurt like in the first 9 minutes. Then Klay tears his ACL, so all the fortune fell y'all way. That's probably not going to happen again. At least now with the Clippers, he has the luxury of playing on one of the most stacked teams of his entire life, and they match perfectly. He definitely has a legit second star now with Paul George, who can take on the defensive challenge of guarding the opposing team's best players. So if Kawhi Leonard, if he's on an offensive tear and he's cooking offensively, doing all this Michael Jordan-like stuff, he doesn't have to worry about going right back and guarding LeBron, Giannis, KD. He can kind of just chill and they can rotate. Also, Paul George can take over offensively if need be, so they don't have to worry about the main source of their offense coming from Kawhi. They can rotate. That will make Kawhi's life a lot easier now that he has a Paul George and a Lou Williams and all these other players that can take over in different ways. Kawhi can actually let his body heal properly, and he will have less responsibility because everything fits. So we're probably going to see the healthiest Kawhi. I mean, this dude is like the biggest success story in the NBA. Gets drafted by the Spurs, wins an NBA championship. They send him to Toronto. Everything falls into place. They win the championship. Now he falls into this perfect Clippers team. So, man, shout out to Kawhi. And finally on this list, and I'm bunching these two together because they needed each other bad, Anthony Davis and LeBron James. As great as Anthony Davis was with New Orleans, and he was great, he put up some historic numbers, he was not getting anywhere without another superstar. Like, it was just time for him to leave. They weren't going anywhere. That situation always reminded me of Kevin Garnett when he was with Minnesota. Minnesota was great. He was balling for him. He was doing everything he could for that franchise, but they weren't going to win an NBA championship. It was in Minnesota, so it wasn't like they were going to attract another superstar to come there. It's just like he just can't waste his prime trying to win a championship with the team that drafted him if it's not going to happen, so he had to depart. And for LeBron, you don't want this move to LA to seem like it was just about movies and making sure his son goes to a high school in LA and all this stuff. You want him to actually be an all-time great Laker. His name is way too big for him to go to the Lakers and just be a disaster, so I didn't want him to go to LA and never win. At least now with Anthony Davis, DeMarcus Cousins, the talent they have around him, they have a chance to actually win big. It's going to be tough because they are in the Western Conference, and as we know, the West is loaded, and it seems like it gets better by the day, but at least it's not this big fiasco where Magic is quitting out of nowhere, Rob Pelinka is making up stories about Kobe and all that. It's just like now it's more under control, and they have a better team, and they can actually compete. If LeBron wins a 4th NBA championship, and mind you, he will have 3 championships in 3 different locations, that's historic stuff. So he can elevate his legacy in LA, and he just won't be a figure that went there and never won. So for LeBron and AD, I feel like they were in dire need of each other's presence. If you guys like the video, make sure you guys like the video. I don't care if you're one of my OGs, if you're new, if you sat through all this and enjoyed the video, hit that like button and subscribe if you're new. Turn on post notifications. All that stuff helps me out a ton. These videos they take a lot of time, so I love y'all support. Make sure you guys are following all of my social media sites. Make sure you guys click the link in the bio. I don't know why I said it, I don't got a link in the bio. Make sure you guys follow my social media sites, do all that great stuff, guys. And until next time, enjoy your day and stay tuned.